I'm not asking whether you're willing to or not. I'm just saying, is it feasible? Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully you know what time it is. It's time for Life of a CISO with yours truly, Dr. Eric Cole. It's a pleasure to be with you. It's one of my favorite times. I'll be honest with you. This is my happy place. When things get busy, today is a crazy, crazy day. And I had a meeting that ended early and had about 35 minutes. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm like, oh, I'm going to run in the studio, right? It gives me energy. It excites me. It's funny because I never understand the concept of when people say, oh, Eric, you're going to get burnt out, right? You're going to go in, if you work too hard, you got to rest more, you got to take time off. And I never understood that concept because burning out means that the fire is going out because there's not enough fuel. So to me, people get burnt out because of distractions. Instead of putting fuel on the fire, you're doing other things besides cutting wood, stacking the wood, and burning the fire. So what happens is, because you're so distracted with everything else, you realize the fire is going out, there's no wood, so you then have to frantically run into the woods, chop wood, and that gets you exhausted. But to me, if you keep throwing wood on the fire, how can you possibly get burnt out, right? I love doing this. So to me, I had a lot going on, a couple little issues and stuff like that, so little low energy. So what do? I come in and I do what I love, and guess what's going to happen at the end of 30 minutes? That fire is going to be burning. I'm going to be energized. I'm going to be running around. You're glad we're not in person. I might start headbutting everybody. No, but my staff's getting worried now. But the point is, if you do what you love, you never have to work a day in your life. So I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity. I feel like this is, on the one hand, I'm doing a service and helping you and giving you information. But on the other hand, it's a little selfish because I get a lot out of it too. So thank you. Thank you for listening, because I couldn't have the opportunity to do what I love if I didn't have amazing people like you listening on the other end, absorbing and providing feedback. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We make a great team. I also want to let you know we've been starting up some new cohorts of the CISO Cert. It's a 6-month program, 40 hours of knowledge transfer, 6 months of group coaching, and a private peer group. So if that's something of interest to you, typically we recommend that for people around 5 years. If you have a little less, that's fine, where you want to either become a CISO, you are a CISO, or you want to jumpstart the process. This is a 6-month acceleration program. This is where we're going to get you where you need to be, and basically covering all angles. So if you need the knowledge, if you need the strategy, if you need the playbook, if you need the questions, we're going to give you that. If you're coming from a non-security background, you need the technical, we'll give you that. And most importantly, we'll give you the mindset and the focus so you can actually accomplish and become a world-class CISO. So first thing I want to talk about is an area I've seen coming up a lot more in my coaching calls. And it's people that want to become a CISO. That's on their to-do list, but when I'm talking to them, somewhere along the conversation, I hear things like, I'm not CISO material, or no one's going to hire me as a CISO, or I don't know if I can transition from technical to strategy, or I don't know if I'll be accepted in the boardroom. I don't know if people will listen to me. Once again, just a whole bunch of garbage, right? A whole bunch of limiting beliefs. But here's the problem. One limiting belief that you hold to be true could basically derail your entire career. That's the scary part about limiting beliefs. You believe it to be factual, and therefore you create a reality around it. So the scary part is you could listen to all of my podcasts. You can go through my training. Well, you wouldn't get through my training because I would catch the limiting belief and will knock it out of you pretty good on quick. That's one of the things I immediately address on our coaching calls. That's the first thing we got to clean up and fix on you. But if you're not going through my coaching, I still want to help you. That one thing could derail your entire career. I know people that for 10, 15, 20 years have been held back in their careers, their life, and other areas because of a limiting belief that they held to be true. So first is the identification and awareness of it. Now, the problem is with a lot of limiting beliefs, many of them come from when you were younger and somebody told it to you and you believed it as a fact. You don't even realize it. So this is where having trusted friends or family members is super helpful, where you can go up and say, listen, is there a phrase that you hear me say all the time that is not always the most positive or negative? Or do you hear me putting myself down on a regular basis? Or I'm trying to become a CISO. Do you ever hear me say anything that's contradictory or negative to that? And you'd be amazed at your friends or family members, if they're close and they're good friends, they'll start laughing and be like, funny thing you should ask, right? They'll be like, you know something? You boom, 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 right? But here's the thing. It has to be initiated by you. And this is one thing I learned the hard way, because I had some friends where I heard these limiting beliefs. They said them over and over again, and I want to be a good friend. And I thought I was being good. So I breached it with them. They did not ask. They were not at a point where they wanted to know. And I said, just so you know, do you realize you say this all the time and it's holding you back? And basically because it didn't come from them and your mind thinks it's true, what do you think you're going to do? Defend it. So that's when they get angry, they get mad, you potentially get into a disagreement or an argument, and you could lose friends over it. So it has to be one of those things where you initiate it, because if you're initiating it, you're recognizing its presence. You're telling your brain, hey, we're going into an uncomfortable place, but we're going to fix this thing, and it changes everything. So don't expect your friends to tell you, and if they did, you probably got defensive and didn't even realize it. You need to ask. But I want to give you an exercise that I've done with a lot of up-and-coming CISOs that really helps them break through that. That really helps them break through that limiting belief. And this can also help you in putting together a world-class resume or CV. So here's what you do. I want you to spend some time. You probably need maybe 2 hours. Some of you can get it done in an hour or 45 minutes, but block out 90 to 120 minutes just to be safe. And what I want you to do is I want you to create a fictitious person that is the most awesomest CISO you've ever met on the planet. So I want you to just think of this imaginary character, right? The Superman, the Iron Man, the Wonder Woman, whatever you want of CISOs. The most amazing CISO you have ever seen. And I want you to create the CV for this fictitious character. I want you to break down what are the skills and qualities they would have. What would be the awards that they have? What would be the things that they've accomplished? What would be the companies that they've worked at? What would be the type of experience that they would have? What are the types of degrees they might hold? What are the types of papers they might have written? What are the types of books they might have wrote? What are the types of interviews they might have performed? And just go through, and the more detailed, the better. And just create the ultimate CISO. This CISO would get any job they apply to. This would be the CISO of a Fortune 1 company. I mean, this is the best CISO on the planet, and create it. Then once you do, put it aside for a day or two. Just want to take a quick break. I hope you're enjoying the show. I have this free webinar that I would love for you to check out if you want to become a world-class CISO. Then I want you to take a highlighter and go through, I start with the yellow highlighter, and go through and highlight things in that uber fictitious CISO person that are applicable to you. Now, once again, the company might not be where you work, but if you look at the detailed description of what they do, oh, I've given presentations. I've briefed the board. I've managed a team. I've done, and just start highlighting the sections and yellow. And what you're going to realize, and this depends on where you are in your career. If you're early on, you might have less yellow. If you're later on, you might have a lot more yellow in place. But the point is, if you're really honest with yourself, you have a lot more than you realize. You're probably closer to world class than you are to average. So that's the first thing to show you, hey, wait, I actually have most of this, right? Now I just have to change this resume to make it accurate for me, right? But you keep the yellow and then you add the rest to make it accurate or correct. So that's one way of coming up with a world-class resume, but it's also another way to overcome the limiting belief. It basically shows you that you are world-class. Now, here's the other cool part. No matter how good you are, there's always room for improvement. So then what I want you to do is take a pink highlighter and go through and highlight skills or things that you don't have that you could acquire over the next 3 months. For example, writing an article. Why can't you do that? Well, why can't you write an 800-page article and publish it on LinkedIn? You could easily do that in 3 months. You could go in and record weekly videos. Why can't you start your own podcast? You don't have to do it weekly like me. You could do it monthly or quarterly, but nobody gives you permission other than you to do a podcast. You can do that in 3 months. And so what you're going to start seeing is, hey, wait, there's a lot of proactive things that I can do in the next 3 months. And some people like 6 months, it makes them feel a little comfortable. Either way, 3 to 6 months that I can do. Then take out a green highlighter and say, okay, what are the things that are more than 3 months, but I can do in 3 to 12 months, 3 to 18 months, and start highlighting those. I could be interviewed on TV. You absolutely can. That easily can be done in a 12-month period. With the right thought leadership, you get the right article. You could write a book in 12 months easily. So start highlighting. Now, here's the thing. I'm not asking whether you're willing to or not. I'm just saying, is it feasible? And it is. It is feasible that you could write a book in a year. Now, you might not believe in yourself. There might be a whole other set of limiting beliefs on the writing the book side, but you absolutely could do that. So you want to go in and do that. Now what you're left with is, first, all the yellow shows that you're world class. So it kills that limiting belief that you're not CISO material. You absolutely are. And then it shows you what you do in the next short term and long term to be able to get to even that next level. Now imagine if everything highlighted, whether it's yellow, green, or pink, everything highlighted was you. How would you feel? Would that be pretty awesome? Don't you think you could get a job? Don't you think you could go to that next level? So that is one very, very beneficial exercise that lets you not only sort of get positioned for a job, but also overcome that limiting belief. The other one that's a shorter version of it that I usually do on the coaching calls, but you can do it with yourself or have a friend do it, is just say, okay, when you think of a CISO, what are the high-level qualities you think of? Just give me general high-level things. So, okay, a CISO is a great communicator. Great, so we write that down, great communicator. Okay, what else? CISOs can strategically look at a business and come up with a high-level plan. Great, strategic mindset. Okay, next. What else world-class CISOs? world-class CISOs can translate between technical and business. Great. Let's just stop there. So if somebody is a great communicator, they can create strategy and they can translate. Are we saying that's a pretty solid CISO? Are we saying that's probably CISO material? Yes. Great. Tell me all the times you've communicated. Tell me all the times you've effectively communicated with others. You're telling me that you don't have communication skills? You're telling me you can't communicate or talk with other people or other entities? Of course you can. Next, strategy. Tell me about all the times you've come up with strategies. You've come up with ways to tackle large projects. You've looked big picture. And once again, you come up with a long list. And then, okay, tell me all the times you've translated. Whether it's a parent or a friend who is business and doesn't know security or vice versa, show me all the times you've translated content back and forth. Okay, I'm looking at the list now. Sure seems to me like you're CISO material. Sure seems to me like you got the skills and components that you need to be successful. And then usually what happens is I'll look, and if the person is smiling, if there's a state change where they're smiling and nodding and they believe it, we're done. Because we've just proven that you're not CISO material is false and you absolutely are CISO material. But if they're still like, and not convinced in this, I'll go, okay, let's come up with a couple more. And you sort of come up, most people around 3 to 4 were there. A few stubborn people, I know, I love them. I'd probably be one of those, like 8 or 9, right? But the point is you keep going because the bottom line is every one of you are CISO material if that's what you decide to focus on. If that's what you decide to put energy and effort against. So I just want to make sure I spent a little time is all the technical training on the planet isn't going to help you if you don't believe that you're CISO material. If you took something that's false and made it a fact, all of a sudden you've hit a major roadblock. The other question I get a lot that I want to do in the second half of this life of a CISO is what are some of the core characteristics or behavioral patterns or behavioral traits or things to be aware of to be a world-class CISO? So one of my favorite, and by the way, these are not just, I'm focusing on one specifically for CISO. But the cool part about this is these traits or philosophies or whatever you want to call them also make you a pretty darn good human being, right? They also make you world-class humans. So they also sort of help you on that front too, which isn't bad at all. So first and foremost, and this is important because CISOs have to be chameleons. What I mean by that is they're going to be talking in a lot of different audiences, and they have to adapt and adjust to that audience. They're going to sometimes be talking to technical folks. They're going to sometimes be talking to standard workers. They're going to sometimes be talking to managers. They're going to sometimes be talking to executives. They're going to sometimes be talking to board of directors. All of them are different. All of them speak different languages. So if you don't like chameleon, multilingual is another one. But you have to be able to go into any situation and very quickly determine what language they're speaking and start speaking that language. Because the fatal mistake that could be world-class CISOs, average CISOs, is they speak the wrong language at the wrong time. So they're in front of the technical people and they start speaking business and strategy, they lose respect. The technical team no longer trusts them. Or they're in front of executives or managers and they start going in and talking technical. The executives don't think they're executive material and they're done. So it is critical that you can very quickly determine the language. And the way you do that is remembering a simple phrase. Treat people the way they want to be treated. Notice I changed it. I always grew up with the phrase, treat people the way you want to be treated. Now, here's the problem. I follow that and I crashed and burned because I'm a unique duck, right? I'm a little interesting and different. Many people aren't like me. I like when people are brutally honest with me. I don't want you to beat around the bush. I'm one of those, and yeah, I'm a little weird here. After I give a presentation, I don't want to hear from the 900 people that go, oh, you were great, you were great, you were great. That doesn't help me. I want to go in from the one person that says, Eric, you were great, but here's the one thing you can do to become even better. Here's the one change that you can make that would elevate your stage presence. That's what I want to hear because I want to always improve. I want to always improve and always get better. So through a large portion of my life, that's how I treated people. When they did something good, I wouldn't tell them, oh, you were amazing and walk away. I would say, you know something? You know how you can make it better? By doing X, Y, and Z. Well, here's the problem. That annoys most people. That frustrates most people. So treating people the way I wanted to be treated wasn't effective because they were different. The real phrase that I learned is treat people the way they want to be treated. So understand who you're talking with and treat them that way. And the best way of doing that is ask questions. When I go into an environment and I don't know who I'm talking to, I don't know what language they speak, if they don't start talking, I always start talking saying, hey, can you tell me a little bit about your current job and your interest in cybersecurity? So when you think of cybersecurity, what do you think of? If somebody could solve one of the problems that you currently have in cybersecurity, what would that problem be? And notice what I'm doing. I strategically ask questions that will let me know what language I need to speak to them. And then I now can engage in the conversation. So world-class CISOs are very focused on the environment, understanding who they're talking to, and treating that person the way they want to be treated. Now, if it's a stranger, the only way you know how somebody wants to be treated is by asking them or asking questions. So that's the first one. Second one of world-class CISOs, 100% responsibility. No matter what happens or what occurs, own it. Be responsible. I see this all the time. A breach happens, a compromise happens, and right away, Eric, it's not my fault. If those IT people would have done what I said and put asset inventory in place and they would have patched those systems, this would have never happened. I cannot believe that they don't listen to me. Do you want to know how many times I've told them they need to patch the system? And my response that sets the conversation is, no, I really don't care. It's your responsibility. Now, here's the important thing, and I want to be crystal clear here. Because there's some people when now, once again, I'm assuming we're mature next level. So I'm getting to some deep stuff here. But I want to be crystal clear. 100% responsibility. I'm not blaming you, and I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just saying world-class CISOs own whatever happens. They don't make excuses. They don't blame fingers. They're 100% responsible. And you will notice something. World-class chiefs, whether it's CEO, COO, CFO, the world-class, not the average ones, the world-class own whatever happens at the company. They are 100% responsible. If you go back through history and you look at the CEOs when disaster or crisis or issues hit a company, the world-class CEOs always own it and take full responsibility. And the ones that don't, you don't really hear about or don't last very long. So you need to go in and own it. Whatever happens, whether somebody listened to you or didn't listen to you, whether they should have or shouldn't, 100% responsibility, take it, own it, fix it. Next one of world-class CISOs. Don't be perfect. Perfect is the most overrated standard. And once again, I hear this all the time is, I'm briefing the executives. I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to screw up. I want this to be perfect. No, you're going to make a mistake. You're going to screw up. It's going to be okay. I'll give you an example. I was, a year or so ago, I was testifying at trial. I do expert witness work. And in one of my footnotes, I had MIRS, which is basically Mr. or Mrs. And then I had a couple of people's names like Cole, Jones, Smith. And this was on cross, so you sort of on edge a little bit. And they said, so didn't you talk to 3 people, Cole, Jones, Smith? I didn't have my glasses, right? It's small font. And I just saw 4 names. So yes, I actually said, no, there were 4 people, Ms., Cole, Smith, and Jones. And then there was sort of awkwardness, right, in the courtroom. And he's like, doesn't MISRS stand for Mr. Mrs.? I'm like, oh yeah, so there are 3. And it's like, so that could have been a moment that I screwed up, right? I made a mistake. It wasn't perfect. I could have got upset. I could have made excuse, and I just owned it. I just sort of laughed, right? Smiled at the jury and said, let's move on. And basically crushed it and ended up doing a great job for our client there. So you're gonna make mistakes. The question is, do you shake it off and move on? Or do you let it bother you, ruin you, or destroy your hour, day, week, year, whatever segment of time you want to utilize? Everybody makes mistakes. Just shake it off and move on. Don't let it destroy you, especially in cybersecurity where you're managing risk. You're never going to get it right. You're never going to get it 100%. So own mistakes. With my team, we move very quick. I'm like, listen, if you're not making a couple of mistakes a week, you're doing something wrong, because it means you're playing it too safe. And if you're playing it too safe, you're missing opportunities. Now, my fundamental rule is we can make mistakes once and let's move on. If somebody keeps making the same mistake over and over and over again, we're going to have a conversation, right? But making some mistakes are part of being a world-class CISO. Every one of us has. If you ever make a mistake and you're upset about it or frustrated, just ping me and I'll go mistake for mistake, and I'll bet you this is one competition I will win. I am pretty sure I've made a lot more mistakes than you. And even if you win, we're both going to be in the 1,000 mark. So who cares, right? We'll call it a tie, or I'll concede at that matter. So we're fine on that front. Last area of world-class CISOs: always do the right thing, even if no one's watching. Sometimes we get into some world-class CISOs that are all about getting credit and ego, and they want to do the right thing. And if they have to work on weekends when no one's around, why should I do that? No one's going to know I did it. Who cares? Do the right thing even if no one's watching. Because if you always do the right thing when no one's watching, you're going to do the right thing when people are watching. That's a mistake when people are like, oh, I'm only going to do the right thing if I get credit for it or if people are watching. Here's the problem. That means you're not doing the right thing. And many times that's going to be when people are watching, because you don't know. You never know when somebody's watching you. Another example is I was at a big conference, and there was a very high-end executive. You would actually recognize them. They're fairly well known in the industry and in the media a lot, in the news. And I wanted to get to know them and build a friendship with them. I just thought they'd be a cool person to hang out with. And of course, at the conference, everyone was bombarding them, right? Everyone was trying to get their attention, so we really didn't get a chance. After the event was over, I exercised, and then I love sauna and ice baths. And this resort had a cold plunge, 30 degree. You basically a big hole in the ceiling. You pull a latch and a deluge of water dumps on you. So I go to the spa, and you walk in, and sort of the bathroom is to the left, and you really can't see inside, and then to the right is the locker room. So I come in, and I'm the person that's taking it. I'm like, hey, how you doing today? It's like, oh, it's busy. I'm like, man, don't worry. I got plenty of time. I don't want to cause any stress for you. How can I help you out here? Can I grab the towels or this, that? And it's just who I am. I didn't think anyone was there. Didn't think anyone was watching. And I was just really nice to this person, encouraging him, giving some motivation, helping him out there. He's like, I can't believe people left the towel. So I'm like, let me help you out here, and just did the right thing when no one was watching. What I didn't realize is that executive that I want to build a relationship with was actually in the bathroom listening to all of this. And he was listening on how I acted and treated when no one was around. He came out and he said, hey, man, weren't you at the event? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you know something? I want to meet more people like you. And I'm like, what? I want to meet you? And he's like, I want to meet people that always treat folks with respect, this and that. Me and him ended up having dinner that evening, and we still chat on text and get together and building up a great relationship. Now, if all I was focused on was doing the right thing when he was watching and trying to get his attention at the event, I would have walked into that spa with my guard down, not be the true Eric, and I would have missed an opportunity. So always be your authentic self, always do the right thing. And that is what makes a world-class CISO. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and look forward to seeing you next week on Life of a CISO.